For those of us with insecure attachment, we can struggle with discernment, our ability to clock what's actually happening and the quantifiable patterns to see the actual reality of a situation. I see this in a lot of stories that people share in comments, stories on Reddit, just other places online, where they're discerning that a casual sexual dynamic, situationship, whatever you want to call it, hookup dynamic, is actually just dating an avoidant person. They're translating the not seeing the person very much, only seeing them on the weekends, maybe just at night, hooking up, things not escalating. They're thinking that's what avoidance looks like. And it makes sense to, our insecurely attached brains. It's easier to digest that, someone that we've emotionally and sexually invested in, which is a very vulnerable thing to do, it's a easier pill to swallow to go, this person, I only see them a few times a month and then they ignore me for the rest of the month. It's not because they're just not that into me. It's because no, they really, really like me and I'm pretty sure they're avoidant. They must be a DA. And I think that's what's happening in a story that a commenter left. So I wanted to share this story. I think a lot of us find ourselves in this situation where we get stuck in these magical thinking patterns to justify that a casual sexual dynamic can turn into something more serious. So by the way, if you're brand new here, my name is Wando. Welcome to Confessions of an Avoidant, where I like to talk about attachment from the perspective of someone who's avoidant. I could literally talk about this all day, so subscribe if you love it too. Okay, so let me read this comment. It goes like this. I had a situationship with a DA. I'm FA. He was selfish, never said he was sorry, never gave me a compliment, never included me with anything about his life. He said he didn't want a relationship, but he took my phone and went through it as I slept. He brought up things he saw, but wouldn't be truthful and say he went through my phone until much later. He acted like I was supposed to stop my life and be happy in a non-relationship that looked like a relationship. He would spend 3 days and nights with me, be so caring and so sweet. But when he left, I don't think he cared about me. It was like out of sight, out of mind. Girl, we all know that feeling. It's the worst, waiting for the text. He said he didn't want anyone to rely on him. He was a mechanic and only once helped me with an issue with my car, but he'll fix other people's cars. He would ignore my messages, would ghost me for weeks on end, and then come back for a couple days. One time, in bed, he was looking at himself in the mirror when we were intimate. He was basically showing how much he cared for himself but no one else. He would get mad at me if I treated him how he treated me. He never got personal. He would leave town and not even think about telling me. He was the most selfish person I was with. He only cared about himself and made up stories about things I would do or say, but he was never close enough to me to even get to know me. His idea of reality was what he thought, and he didn't ever try to work with me on anything. It was his way or no way. I told him I was falling for him and wanted to know we were on the same page. And he made it seem like he was there with me when he never was. I still feel hooked on him, but later I'm sure I will think he was an asshole who I should have ran from. So this commenter wrote that this guy, that he expected her to be happy in a non-relationship that looked like a relationship. But this doesn't look like a relationship at all. Not even with a dismissive avoidant person. By the way, let's just call this commenter Lila so that I can stop saying this commenter every 3 seconds, which takes really long to say. Let's call her Lila. Lila, da-na-da. Please stop drooling over this guy, Lila. This is not what a relationship looks like, Lila. I know the song is Layla. Anyway, her ability to discern what a relationship looks like is off here. Her ability to discern the patterns of when someone really likes you over time. They want to escalate things with you. They want more companionship with you. They want to spend more time with you. They want to make plans and confide in you more and tell you about their day at work and talk to you throughout the day. And, you know, you're the emotional shoulder that they can lean on, and all those things that come with someone liking you and want a relationship. So what I'm getting from this situation, it seems more like two people met at some point, they hung out, and they started hooking up. I could be wrong, but that's just what I'm getting from the story. It doesn't sound like they really dated. It doesn't sound like he courted her over a period of weeks, and that was slowly escalating and building up to something. And the justification for why he's not spending more time with her, why he's ignoring her for weeks on end, all of this absence and lack of communication and lack of interest in me is just avoidance. That must be what DAs do. When we have insecure attachment, we do something called cognitive distortions. This is when we distort reality and we have a difficulty seeing patterns of what's actually happening. So our brain can trick ourselves and ignore the statistically relevant information that doesn't talk to her for weeks on end, doesn't tell her anything about his life, and hyperfixate on the statistically irrelevant information. And I see that in this situation. Don't let the cognitive distortions defeat you, my friends. If I'm being completely honest, this has all of the hallmark signs of a man who is either married or has a girlfriend. It's a telltale sign that you are the other woman, the mistress that hasn't figured it out yet, one of numerous side chicks. When the person does not talk to you, you're not a part of their life, they're having fun, they're doing fun things like going out of town, and you are never, ever, ever, ever invited along. You don't know about the plans, you're not a part of it. It's like you're just this person that exists on the weekends 2 or 3 times a month. I don't have enough information to say that's for sure happening. But for this video, I just want to focus on the fact that he just doesn't like her as much as she likes him, regardless of why. Whether he's married, whether, for all we know, he truly is an avoidant. That doesn't matter either. He just wants a casual sexual dynamic. When someone doesn't like you as much as you like them, and they don't want something more serious with you, that is the most pertinent piece of information. The whys of that actually don't matter that much. And as insecurely attached people, we can get caught up in the whys. But I actually do have a quiz that I've linked in the description if you are confused if you're dating an avoidant or not. So feel free to click the link and take the quiz. Okay, so Lila writes about seeing him for 3 days in a row, and then he would ghost her for weeks on end. And this just really sums up how casual sexual dynamics go. If I'm doing the math, that is about 20% of the month of quality time. Not even half of the month, not even a third, 20% of the month that he spends time with her. And in that time, they are having sex. And he doesn't want a relationship. He's communicated that. His behavior backs that up. And even a very dismissive, avoidant person will want to spend quality time with their partner, will want to communicate with them throughout the week, will want to, text every single day. When they really like someone, avoidant people, we like consistency, we like safety, we like companionship. We can be a little bit slower to be more vulnerable, or be a little bit more slower and kind of ramping up the quality time and things like that. But we like the consistency. We like emotionally feeling safe with people. So all the things that this guy is not doing, avoidant people and avoidant men will do. They will court you during the dating phase. They will take you out on multiple dates a week. They'll look forward to seeing you on a weekly basis. They'll start talking about plans for the weekend, text you throughout the day, every day. Some avoidance more than others. They enjoy the consistency that starts to escalate in the dating phase. Men, especially men looking for relationships, like to court women. So what I'm getting, as much as this guy sucks, I'm sure he thought we're two people having casual sex. Just like she can't read his mind, he can't read hers. So they're both two people who've consented to casual sex. It doesn't sound like they really dated over a period of weeks and that was slowly escalating and building up to something. And I know this because Lila literally writes that he never got personal with her. Made up stories about things that she would do or say, but he was never close enough to her to even get to know her. So it's interesting because her logical brain is saying he was never even close enough to me to get to know me. I'm not even close to this guy. How dare he make up stories about me? Almost lying to herself that she likes him more than she even probably does. And most likely because sex is triggering. It's very triggering for women. It's extra triggering for us with insecure attachment, with CPTSD. And we can find ourselves in this rut of when we sleep with the guy, we can find ourselves lying to ourselves that we like him more than we even do. I truly think that's what's happening with Lila here. I also think it's interesting that she says, if we back up a little bit, that he made up stories about things that she would do or say, but he was never close to her. So that gives me the sense that maybe they have mutual friends. Maybe that's how they know each other, through mutual friends or something. And these things that he would say about her behind her back would get back to her. So it almost sounds like this casual thing of having mutual friends. You kind of find yourself hanging out, maybe from, being at the same parties or something like that. You're hanging out and then you start hooking up. That's just what I'm getting. I could be absolutely wrong. So yeah, it just doesn't sound like they know each other very well, which she pretty much says. It sounds like their biggest milestone was at some point they spent 3 days and nights in a row. Whereas when you're having a relationship and it's really escalating, you're gonna have, bigger milestones of oh, we've been dating for 2 or 3 months and he just asked me to be his girlfriend, or, oh, we've been dating for, 3 months or 4 months. And even if that conversation hasn't happened yet, there's other milestones that are happening that are markers of a real relationship. This guy's actions just aren't acting like someone who wants her in his life on a daily or even weekly basis. So it just seems like there's two people who've both logged in, consented to a casual sexual dynamic. And one person is kind of secretly hoping that it escalates into something more. And the other person is fine with it being a casual sexual dynamic. And that doesn't make him a villain, or that doesn't mean that he has some, attachment disorder that needs to be diagnosed. That just is a common situation where two people sign up for a situation and especially in the early dating phase, or we're just hanging out phase. We have mutual friends and we're just hanging out. I think everyone in this situation is just kind of awkwardly and fumbling their way through trying to figure out if the other person still wants to hook up with them. So this isn't me defending the guy. I don't have enough information to know anything about him, his attachment style, whether he's a narcissist, whatever. The one thing I will say that I do believe he is not a great guy is the fact that he made up stories about her. Horrible. For me, if I hear someone has made up a story about me, done. I'm done with them. I will never talk to them again. That is how triggering that is for me. But what he did do is he did tell her he did not want a relationship. And his actions are so consistent with that as well. This guy does not want a relationship with her. And behavior is a language. I love that saying, and I think that behavior is often a way more important language than what you vocally communicate, because human beings often, we censor ourselves in social situations. We don't always say what we're thinking. We're often scared of hurting people's feelings or letting them down or having awkward conversations. So that's why it's so important to read the room of people's behavior. But he goes one further and says that he doesn't want a relationship. And I will say I do find this interesting, but I do notice a lot online that anxiously attached people will write things like, man, why can't people just say from the get-go how they feel, or why can't people just be honest? Why do they string people along and stuff? And I just find it interesting that in this story that this guy, his actions and his words both communicated, I don't want a relationship with you. And it's almost like there's no data in the world that will let her accept that. And that's why her emotional mind, and we all do this, is clinging to these kind of small details of like, no, he really likes me. Like when she writes about, he said he didn't want a relationship, but he took my phone and went through it as I slept, and that he brought up stuff from her phone. That's the fascinating thing about magical thinking. It will be like, oh, he's acting like he doesn't like me. He's not texting me. He's not calling me. He's going out of town without me. He's not including me in his life. I haven't spoken to him in 2 weeks. But there was that one time that he went through my phone in the middle of the night and he acted so jealous the next day. It's like when we have insecure attachment, we do this all the time. I'm kind of laughing here because I've done this so many times. It's like you equate some one-off incident where they were jealous as like, he really likes me. That's a cognitive distortion. And it's technically, statistically irrelevant to everything else that's happening. So the moral of the story is we really have to have better boundaries, and particularly as women, better boundaries around sex, especially if we are internally saying we want, strong reciprocal love relationships. We have to match that in how our actions present in the real world when we're hanging out with someone and it's the end of the first or second date and they're like, do you want me to come inside? Do you want to come back to my place? These are the moments where we have to really practice these boundaries. It's not the other person's responsibility. And I want to talk about how we can do this better. But really quickly, if you're enjoying this video, can you please give it a like? That really helps my channel so much. Okay, so having better boundaries in the dating phase, and in particular around sex, is so important. It's so important during the dating phase to take your time. Why? Because it takes time to truly know the ins and outs of another human being. Like, we're very, very complex. So it takes time to really see and understand how compatible you are with someone. So you really have to let time play out. Let the clock run. And I know it might be hard, but it's so important, especially because sex is triggering for us. I don't know what the official definition of too soon is, but in my opinion, and based on, what some gurus and experts and psychologists have said, I think that you should not have sex before, in my opinion, at least a month and a half. Maybe if you've gauged the person well enough by then and you truly feel safe and things are really escalating on a gradual, consistent basis, maybe a little bit earlier, but I think it's so important for you. And here's why. You realize things about people and you learn things about people and you pick up things about people over time. And they're doing the same for you. So there's no way that you know someone well enough in week 1 or week 2 of dating to really understand if that person's an emotionally safe person for you. You get a better sense of how safe someone is emotionally for you over time. This story is a prime example of that. Lila doesn't like this guy that much. She knows he's not a great person. She knows that he's lied about her and things like that. It took time for her to collect that information that like, oh, he makes up stories and he ignores me for weeks. Like, she needed weeks to recognize that he ignores her. She needed weeks or maybe months to recognize and learn, like, he makes up stories, they get back to her. We need time to collect information about people to truly judge if they are emotionally safe for us. Sometimes it's not even about, judging if they're emotionally safe. It's just about judging if we're compatible. Do we truly like this person? Like, we need time to see them in different situations, different, things happening in our lives if we really like them. Maybe on week 1, they're great on the first date, but maybe, you know, week 4, they have a really bad day at work. It's one of their worst work days, and they take all of their anger out on you. And there was no way you would have known that information on week 1. So that's why it's so important to take your time. If you had slept with that person on the first week and you find out on week 3, like, oh, this person has displaced anger issues and they take it out on me. What is their problem? I've done nothing to you. Go to therapy, dude. And you're like, oh, why did I sleep with him? Like, it's just the worst feeling. It's the worst feeling. And I know what some of you are thinking. Nobody is going to wait a month and a half or 2 months or longer. I think in my last relationship, we didn't have sex until 3 months into the relationship. People will really wait. And that's the insecurely attached programming, the CPTSD programming that's telling you this unique story, the toxic story of people suck, they don't wait, you have to bow to them. And it's just not true. This is why reprogramming your subconscious mind is so important. It really does work. When people really, really like you, they will wait, especially because when men are courting a woman and they really like her, they want the woman to see and feel that, like, he wants to impress her, that he wants to be the man and the safe space and, you know, the problem solver and all of these things for her. So it's really your responsibility, not the other person's responsibility, to make sure that you don't have sex on that first date or don't have sex on that second date. Because at the end of the day, you are trying to protect yourself. You're trying to protect your subconscious mind, which can be hard. I totally get it. You have to kind of work harder to instill that boundary and have it be respected. And they will respect it. And the ones that don't, they can leave. You know, that just means that they're not compatible with you and what you're looking for in a relationship ultimately. If they're like, she didn't sleep with me. Like, do you want to sleep with someone who's going to act like that? No. And look, I know it can be hard when, you know, you've gone on a first date with someone or a second date, third date, whatever. And you're like, oh man, this person is really hot. And they're walking you home and you're standing in front of the door and you want to go inside their door or your door. You know what? I had this situation with my last boyfriend. I shouldn't be laughing and like giggling about my last boyfriend. But to his credit, a huge reason that I knew that he really liked me after the first date is because we were walking home and he walked me in front of my door and we started making out in front of my door. And then we stopped kissing for a second and he like looks at me and he's like, should I come in? And by the way, he was so fucking hot. Like, it was so hard to not be like, yeah, let's go inside. It was so hard to not do that. But so he said that and he's looking in my eyes. Before I could even say anything, he says, actually, you know what? Never mind. I'll text you tomorrow. I didn't even have to say no or like come up with like a soft way to be like, I don't think that's best for the first date or something. But the reason I'm telling this anecdote is, one, to tell you that people, when they really like you, they will wait. And then 2 is to recognize your power. You know, I could tell from that first date that my ex really, really liked me because of that. I felt like I had power over him. Not that it's about power, but again, when it comes to our boundaries, it is about power in a sense. Like, we need to have power over our boundaries. And oftentimes when we have insecure attachment, we feel like the other person has all the power. So I could tell that I had power in that before I could even say something, he folded before I had to even show any cards. And he just like walked it back immediately. And he was like, you know what? Actually, don't ask her that. Don't ask her that because I want to see her this weekend. And we ended up going on a date on the weekend, you know. So we do have power in these situations to keep yourself safe and to prevent situations that are so confusing. Are they going to call? Are they going to text? Oh, we did the deed and I haven't heard from them in 2 days. Like, it's so stressful, you know? So to keep yourself as sane as possible when you're dating, you need to have the strong boundary around sex. So, that's going to be the end of this video. I hope you guys liked it. Let me know if you have any other video ideas. Again, feel free to leave any stories that you have in the comments if you want me to address a situation that you're in. And also, don't forget to take the quiz. Are you dating an avoidant quiz linked below. So I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.